Hello, Madeline. It's Marla again. And today is August 6, 2017. And this reading, I'm just going to update a little bit because we have Curtis's birth time now. And I think it's just hysterical that it's 4:44. Like, what a crazy sign that is for you. So I'm just going to spend like a half an hour here, talk a little bit about the changes in his chart, or basically nothing's changed, but we have more information now. We have another piece to the puzzle. So I'll talk a little bit about him separately, and then I'll talk a bit about your joint chart. And what I'll probably spend the most time on as far as your joint chart goes is your nose, because this will help you see what you're here to do together on a soul level. Okay, so now we know that his sun is in Aries, but it's in the 7th house. He actually, okay, so he's a Libra rising now. We didn't know that before. And he's right on the cusp. He's on the 1st degree, which is funny because your ascendant's on 0 Cancer. His is 1 Libra. Your ascendants are square each other. And when the ascendants, descendants aspect each other, that's always a very positive sign in the chart. So they're squaring. He's a Libra rising. Do you have Libra in your chart? No, you don't have anything in Libra. Libra's all about balance. Libra is the 7th house. It has to do with relationships, how we partner with people. But this encompasses all partners, not just romantic partners. How we interact with people, and Libra wants to be the diplomat. It wants to bring people together. It wants happy associations. It's ruled by Venus. Now this makes Venus his chart ruler. So when there's Venus aspects going on, or Venus is prominent in the astrology, it's going to affect him strongly because that's his ruler. And Venus always wants peace and harmony. She doesn't like any kind of discord. So when we have strong Libra, strong 7th house, strong Venus, we want to be a bit of a people pleaser. Now, the first house in astrology is Aries, okay, and Libra is the 7th house. Libra is the opposite of Aries. So because he's Libra rising, basically his chart's like flipped, like where in the traditional astrology chart, the traditional ruler is Aries, and the ruler of the 7th is Libra. In his chart, Libra is the 1st house ruler, and Aries is the 7th house ruler. So when we have these flipped energies like this, we're really learning balance in our life. Okay, so his sun is in Aries in Libra's house. These are opposite energies. So his role here is to learn how to balance who he is. First of all, he needs to find out who he is. And then how can he balance that with other people? How can he be this diplomat? How can he have healthy relationships with healthy boundaries without losing anything of himself, or without giving away too much of himself? He has Libra and Aries in the 7th house as well. Remember, Venus is his chart ruler. So this is also putting an emphasis on this balance of energies. Because she's in her own house, she's powerful there, but she's in the sign of Aries. How can I love? How can I be myself in love while still being a good partner that knows how to create balance? And there's a definite pull to partnerships here. Now, Venus in Aries, she's more of an outspoken Venus. She's a go-getter. She tells it like it is. But because she's in the 7th house, she still wants to be a diplomatic Venus. Now his moon is in Sag. I'm not sure where we had his moon before. It may have been on the cusp, and so either it could have been in Scorpio, or I could have said it's on the cusp of Scorpio, so we just don't know. But now that we have birth time, we know he is a Sagittarius moon, and his moon is in the 3rd house, which is Gemini's house. So a Sagittarius moon needs a lot of freedom, needs a lot of space, doesn't want to be fenced in by anything. Sagittarius is the happy wanderer. They want to expand. And his moon is, it's trining his sun by sign. Okay, he's got his sun and his moon and fire. So there's a lot of drive and passion in him and courage. Sagittarius moon likes to travel, is interested in different cultures, is interested in learning. He's probably someone that is always has some kind of interest going on. Reading something or trying to understand something. Someone that likes the outdoors. And yet it's in the 3rd house. Again, this is an opposite energy. Gemini is the opposite of Sagittarius. This is dealing with the axis of knowledge. Gemini is the lower mind, Sagittarius is the higher mind. I probably talked about this with you because your sun is in Sagittarius, so I'm sure I talked about Sagittarian energies. But a Sag moon will have a bit of a fear about being tied down. Maybe even a bit difficult to commit, although he does have that pull towards the 7th house. He's also a really good communicator and very intelligent. But he may feel like he may hesitate to make decisions based on the fact that he feels he doesn't have enough information. Or he may be someone that's always looking for information. He may be a bit scattered sometimes as well. Just because I feel his mind moves very quickly. Okay, what else? Well, he's got Neptune in the 2nd house. This is a house of financial. It's a house of what you have, your material goods, that sort of thing, your values about yourself. He may not have a clear grasp about money, or he may have difficulty with money, may self-sabotage with money or material gains. Seems like, because where Neptune is, we don't see things clearly. And Neptune in Pisces is the house of undoing, the house of self-undoing. We tend to do unconscious things. That Venus retrograde that we had at the beginning of the year would have been very challenging for him. Because not only was it aspecting his Venus and Mercury, but it went over his 7th house cusp of relationships. And it was mostly in his 7th house. So that was putting an emphasis on relationships and how he was relating to people. Now his nodes, before we knew his nodes were in Virgo and Pisces, but now we know that they're in the 6th and 12th house. So his nodal situation is the same as mine, in which we have the signs and houses reversed. So the natural house of Virgo is the 6th house, and the natural house of Pisces is the 12th house. But because his chart, we can call it opposite. His 6th house is ruled by Pisces and his 12th house by Virgo. Hopefully you're not lost after all that. So he is really balancing the 6th and 12th house. You could put it this way: his north node is in Virgo and Pisces. His south node is in Pisces and Virgo, right? So he's really taking those two and balancing them out. I have the same thing, and it's about creating balance between the material world and the spiritual world. Balancing the logical mind with one's intuition. And this is the axis of service. So it puts even greater emphasis on the fact that he's here to be of service in the world. So to give you an example of this energy, I'll just use myself. So I'm an astrologer primarily. And so astrology uses the Pisces and the Virgo axis. There's a scientific component to astrology. That's the Virgo area. That's Virgo's gift, is analyzing. And the Piscean part is using your intuition. So you can understand the science of astrology, but you need the intuitive component in order to really read the symbols, and vice versa. So that's what he's trying to do in this life. Balance that out. Looking at ways he's sabotaging himself as well. And there is a strong emphasis on his 6th house because he's got Mercury and Mars there as well. This is kind of pulling him towards the 6th house, but it's also in Pisces. One of the difficulties with this aspect, when we're here to be of service, is there can be a tendency to make a martyr of oneself. Where do we draw the line with service to others? Sometimes we have a hard time figuring that out, and we give too much of ourselves. We don't value ourselves enough. And that could be another thing with his Neptune in the second house, because the second house rules our skills and abilities, what we value and how we value ourselves. So he may not see how much he is valued, or he might not understand his own value, and so he overcompensates by being a people pleaser, having bad boundaries, giving away too much of himself. Okay, I'm going to pull up the joint chart. Okay, so I said that your ascendants were square each other, okay, which you can see right here. You're in the inside, he's on the outside. But not only that, but your ascendant lines up with his 10th house cusp. And your 7th house cusp lines up with his 4th house cusp. So when we have our angles conjunct like this, that's a sure sign of a soulmate. And again, I use soulmate loosely. I don't know if I said that in my last reading, but I just mean soulmate like there's a connection there. I'm not saying you're not twins. So this is a really good sign. Now, I imagine in the last reading I did that I knew that his north node was in your 4th house. His south node is on your 10th house. And I probably would have talked about that. And it's funny because your north node is in his 10th house, and your south node is in his 4th house. So you're opposite each other. You're dealing with the same energy, only you're coming from different points of view. You're helping him learn about family, and he's helping you learn about family. You're helping him learn how to achieve his goals and ambitions, to take more charge of his life. And now, like I said, his chart's flipped, so his 10th house is ruled by Cancer, which rules the 4th house, and his 4th house, which is in his chart ruled by Capricorn, is naturally ruled by Cancer. So he's got those flipped energies again. Okay, which is telling us that he's really trying to achieve balance. Balance in all things. His chart has got so many polarities in it. So in the past, he had he had more of a pull to his fourth house. He was probably very dependent on his family. You may have been part of his family in the fourth house, or you likely had something to do with him in his fourth house back then because your south node is there. The fourth house it's a very kind of esoteric house. On the surface, we say, oh, it rules our home and family. But it's also the foundation of our chart. It's the bottom of our chart. It's our soul family. It's our roots. It extends beyond this incarnation. And because it's ruled by the moon, and the moon is our subconscious mind, there's a lot of hidden things there, as there are in all the water signs. All the water signs have an esoteric piece to them because we're dealing with the intuition and the subconscious and our psychic abilities, our deep emotions. And so one of the other things that the fourth house rules is our emotional patterning. That which we do has second nature. I kind of talked about this when we had the Cancer full moon, or the Cancer new moon, I think. It's like when we get triggered, the triggers evoke an emotional response from us. And that emotional response comes from our subconscious. It's learned behavioral patterns whose roots extend very deeply into our psyche, well beyond this life, and, deep into our soul and all the different incarnations that we've had. So it represents our roots in a lot of ways. It represents our roots in terms of our blood family, but also our soul family. And our roots has a soul, and what we've learned and what we've developed has a soul. But as we know, those emotional triggers are not always accurate. So for example, we learn these behavioral patterns, but these patterns are often built on misunderstandings. They're built on pure emotions rather than, emotions are emotions. But they're not always truth, right? Like we can feel like someone rejects us and they bring out a lot of emotion, but that might not be the truth of the situation. It's just our emotional reaction to what we think the situation is. So to me, it seems like he is wanting to learn lessons in this incarnation about that. Because in his fourth house, he's got Jupiter and Saturn and Pallas and Vesta. So there's a component here with Jupiter about his beliefs. Pallas is there, it's about seeing patterns. Saturn is there as a life lesson. And it's a sign of Capricorn is on the fourth house cusp. Saturn's in his own sign there. So Saturn is the most powerful. And Saturn is driving him to define these patterns because these patterns are holding him back from his successful goals and ambitions. These emotional patterns are stopping him from his 10th house growth. So he has to break these patterns. And so the karma there between you seems to be that in some way in the past, you may have inadvertently assisted him in developing some of those patterns. Could have been patterns that he developed in a relationship with you in another life in which you really triggered him. Or you might have encouraged him to be a leader before he was ready and he wasn't prepared for it. Or you may have sabotaged his skills at being a leader in order to get him to stay home with you. There's, a million ways that this could play out. So there's a connection there too, because his Saturn conjuncts your South Node. And so how I would read that is, there's more karma here for sure. But it's like you're not going to let him get away with that anymore. Your responsibility to him in this life is to help him understand these patterns and break away. Okay, your North Node is in his 10th house. And it is in Cancer. So you're here to help him be successful, to help him reach his goals, to take charge of his life. Okay, whatever his professional wants are, whatever he's hoping to become, you're going to encourage him with that. You are here to help him develop a relationship with authority figures. Not to let him fall back into his old pattern of hiding out. And in this incarnation, he may depend on his family. It's kind of hard to see exactly where he might be because of the dualistic nature, because it's 4th house in Capricorn. So with the Saturn South Node conjunction, you are here to not let him get away with slacking off. You're here to help him do his soul mission, to be the best that he can be. And if he tries to slack off into old patterns, you recognize it and you guide him out of it. 44% battery, by the way. I know you like your 4s. You have a Mars-Saturn conjunction there as well. And that's a bit of, well, most twin flames have Mars-Saturn aspects in their chart because it has to do with a karmic block so that they don't come together before everything's fixed, before they learn their lessons, It's like trying to go, like you're the Mars person. You're trying to put your foot on the gas, and he's a Saturn person. He's putting on the brake. Saturn is time too, so Saturn affects the divine timing of things. So think of it like learning work-life balance, but it goes a little bit deeper because of these conditioned patterns. You may find like you trigger him a lot, for example. But that's to help him see those patterns and break free. So now, it's the same kind of thing with you because his north node falls in your 4th house, his south node in your 10th house. So like I said, he's doing the opposite. In a past life, you had that success, but you neglected your home life. And now he's here to help you develop that. Or I should say, your foundation is not as strong. You have Pluto conjunct Uranus in your 4th house. So this foundation of your chart, the home and the family, the soul family, the emotional conditioning, is going to undergo multiple transformations. For example, you may move a lot. Or in the previous lives, for some reason, your 4th house was not built up enough. So now you're here to undergo a total transformation of your 4th house. And he's here to help you with that because his north node is there. And he knows all about the 4th house because it's strong in his chart. So he'll help you build that foundation. He will help you learn how to nurture yourself. He'll help you find security. He'll help you take a look at your belief systems and where your beliefs, where your thoughts are impacting your growth. But he may detract from your 10th house. So, his 10th house he's learning his 10th house stuff right now. So he doesn't understand the 10th house as well as you do. So if you try to get him involved in your business or your public life in some way, it might somehow detract from you. Although you have your Chiron in the 10th house, so there could be some soul wounding around your public life, but because your own nodes are in Capricorn, Cancer, that is also putting an emphasis there. But in another way, because that way is saying in the past, well, I'm sorry. I take that back. In the past, you were good at doing the public life thing, but you weren't so good at doing the home thing. That's being shown in your own nodes because your nodes are in Capricorn and Cancer, the 10th and 4th house signs. But you've got Jupiter. This is another thing that's funny. So you've got Jupiter in your 10th house. God, this is confusing me. I'm confusing myself with all these things. Okay, I take that back. I don't want to say that. I'm just going to stop it there. He's there to help you. He's here to help you understand family, understand home, understand security, understand your roots, or to lay down more solidly ground roots. So you have your moon conjuncts his Chiron, and his moon squares your Chiron. That's a beautiful aspect because I always think of moon Chiron as being very healing. Especially the conjunction. Now the squares is That's going to take a bit more effort to heal, and his Mars is there as well. So the wound can be that he's just a bit more aggressive, or at some point in one of your lives, he was a bit aggressive. That Vesta conjunction, to me speaks strongly about south nodes. The Vesta south node conjunction speaks strongly to me that there's a deep connection, and you're probably twins. I mean, I can only give you my opinion. I looked at your photograph. You guys are adorable, and I do see a similar energy there. So if I had to give you my opinion, I would say that you are twins. I think you should trust yourself. Just trust your psychic abilities are very strong. Your knowing is very strong. But see, this is something coming from your nodes, because you have distrust based on your south node in Capricorn. You don't trust your psychic abilities all the time. You are more logical. You're having to grow in this incarnation toward trusting those abilities. So his Jupiter, Vesta, Saturn are in your 7th house, which is very attractive to someone. And then the Saturn there shows that it's probably going to develop slower, but it will be a very strong relationship. The foundation will be built strongly. Definitely a strong past life connection between the two of you. His palace is in your 8th house, conjunct your Venus. That's also very attractive. Now you bring your Jupiter to his 7th house of partnerships. So Jupiter is that great, expansive, benevolent, optimistic, happy energy. And his north node, his own north node is in the 12th house. He's developing his mystical abilities, and you bring your Pluto-Uranus there into his 12th house, which have a lot to do with that hidden wisdom and stuff. So that's helpful to him. Your sun conjuncts his Juno. Well, I'm sure I talked about these, well, I can't always talk about everything in a reading. You bring a lot of planets to his 4th house, the south node, Mars, Mercury, and Venus. So one of the things that's very attractive about you to him is that you feel like home. It feels like he knows you. And of course you do know each other. But it can be almost palatable when someone brings that many planets into your 4th house. You will bring your moon to his 5th house. It's a house of love affairs, creativity, children, play. And his Chiron is there in the 5th house. So it seems like there's a wound there. And I study Chiron quite a bit, and the person that I study the most about it has said that Chiron in the 5th house sometimes represents having to experience a lot of things through sexuality. This is the house of Leo, and like I said, it rules love affairs. So with Chiron there and Pisces in the 5th, there could be a strong sexual component to him. It's something he's needing to experience regarding his wound. Now you bring your moon there, so it's like you can heal that. You can help heal that for him. I bring this up because just in case something like that may be going on, to help you understand it, that it's kind of a life lesson for him. For example, like the book just said, they could have, someone with that placement could have strange sexual desires. So I'll leave it at that. But because your moon's in the 5th house too, that might be highly attractive to him as well. And there's that natural healing between you. All right, I think I'm going to end it there, Madeline. So I hope that kind of adds a little bit more depth to the reading. And, you know, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about the new findings. And I'm wishing you all the best during this Lionsgate. So the full moon eclipse that's coming up tomorrow is going to be conjunct your Saturn. So you're really having to let go of some stuff. Some things that are blocking you. It has to do with your belief system. Some beliefs that are blocking you. And for him, it's going to be on his Uranus series. I guess I talked about this, didn't I? I start channeling and then I'm like, I don't know if I talked about it or not. He could have something unexpected happen to him. Again, the eclipse energy is in effect for 6 months, so it may not happen right away. It's hard too because I just did a reading. I actually did a reading for your friend that you recommended. Thank you for referring her to me. And she was born in 63 too, so she's got something similar in her chart to you. So I was talking to her about it in her chart, and that's why maybe I'm getting confused. Like, did I talk about this or not? But something unusual could happen for him. And then for him, the new moon solar eclipse is going to be around his Chiron. And so hopefully he'll experience some great healing. That should help him open his heart to a new level. And I'm crossing my fingers for you that, you know, he really steps forward for you. All right, my dear, thank you so much. Happy eclipsing. Keep me posted on you guys.